Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I may be the boring one, but I have a co-chair, Moji Mokin, who we will not find boring, I guarantee. I have another co-chair here with me, Michael Montefiorani, along with Harvey Sorensen. The four of us have taken on to lead this coalition to encourage our town, our home, to vote yes on the sales tax come November 4th. So the main reason I'm here, I need to educate folks on this. There's been a lot of misinformation out there, like that there's not a plan, there's a very detailed plan about where this is going, or that we can wait as a community on any of these issues. So let me address the four issues that this goes to, help you understand a little bit about the sales tax. It is a 1 cent sales tax, 1%. Over 5 years. It takes our sales tax rate as a city from 7.15 to 8.15, which is still lower than Topeka, Kansas City, El Dorado, a lot of communities around us, ahead of us. So this isn't taking us above a lot of our competing cities around us, and several of the surrounding communities that either just passed or have on the ballot projects like what we're looking at. This sales tax deals primarily with infrastructure and foundational elements that you build a community on. So let me address those four issues. The first one is water. The most important one is water. 63% of this goes towards water. 2 years ago, how many people lived here 2 years ago? Yeah, almost everybody. You guys remember the pictures in the paper of Cheney empty, way down and the dock sitting on dirt and not mud? So we can do something. We can wait for another drought to try and plan and figure out a long-term water source if we want. All the cities across America are trying to figure out their long-term water plans. You guys know the problem is in California. San Antonio is having trouble attracting business. If you want a thriving city, you have to have water figured out. You have to have long-term water figured out. The city heard loud and clear from citizens 2 years ago as they started to get told, hey, you can't water your lawns as much. We're going to fine you if you're using too much water if this keeps going on. Hey, why don't we develop a plan? The attack on the city from people 2 years ago was that they didn't have a plan for water. So the city listened to citizens, said, what do you guys want us to go after this? They said, yes, it's our #1 issue. They did over 100 community meetings on this. They sent out 25,000 surveys. That's how they identified these four issues. The city's never done this kind of public engagement before around what the community wants and how they want to pay for it. It came back loud and clear. This is the citizens speaking. The city put it together and is giving the citizens a chance to vote on it. So what's the plan with water? They started over a year ago. They started with 16 options, took it down to 9 options, took it down to 5 options, got down to the final 2. Did 3 studies on this. It came down to El Dorado and what's called the ASR, which is an aquifer recharge program. Okay? We're looking at a 10-year drought. Planning for that, which was a Dust Bowl drought. The last drought that ended 2 years ago was a 4-year drought. El Dorado wouldn't guarantee the last 2 years of the 10, or the last 3 years of the 10-year drought. So we end up with ASR, which I think is pretty good because you take an extra 30 million gallons a day off the little arc. This is what it pays for, to take that water, treat it, put it underground where it can't evaporate, and be able to pull it up and put it into our water system when we need it. It's a really clear plan. What the money goes to, they just need to bid it out, and then it'll be finalized. The buses. I love Uber. I love things like that. You've got to have a smartphone to use them. A lot of people in our community who rely on transit don't have those things. That's why United Way, one of the reasons that they, Patty Hanrahan spoke at City Council in support of this, why we have several nonprofits as a part of our coalition. Spoke to a group yesterday whose people primarily ride on buses. So the bus system, Moji sits on the Transit Authority. She can speak to this more intelligently than I can. But they will have to shrink bus service by 25% over the next 2 years. It's important for you to understand what a no vote costs you. 25%, or we're able to expand it and get people to second shift jobs. Do you guys know a thriving community in this country that's shrinking their transit program? Streets, 111 miles of neglected neighborhood roads. Pretty plain and simple. We're not the only city to ever consider paying for roads through a sales tax. It happens all over the country. Shawnee County is voting on it right now. They've done it since 2000. Okay, so let me end with jobs, because this is a really important one. And then Moji's going to talk a little bit about our why and helping you really understand the difference between the yes and no. Jobs, okay? Let me show you 2 charts. Here's the first one. All right, this is Wichita job growth as a percentage over the previous 4 decades. 70s, 39%, 80s, 13%, 90s, 15%, 2000, 2010, 1%. Okay, now let's think about our community since 2008. We've lost 31,000 jobs and only gained 11,000. That's a net loss of 20,000 jobs. That's every man, woman, and child in the city of Derby. So if you don't believe we're at a jobs crisis, maybe this chart will help show you. These are all our peer communities across the Midwest. It's got Omaha, Denver, Oklahoma City, Des Moines, Dallas-Fort Worth, Tulsa, the nation right here. This is job growth. Wichita's the red line. This is up into 2014. We're getting left behind. We're getting left behind. And the invitation for me on this, and you'll hear from me more than once, as a fellow YP, as a person who's born and raised here, who's raising 4 kids, it's time for us to stand up. This is a moment I hear all the time from young professionals. Why aren't we doing more as a community to move forward? What's wrong with Wichita? Why aren't we trying to do more? And though this isn't very sexy when it comes to different projects we could be working on, if we can't plan for our water, how can we plan for a vibrant community? If we can't plan for the foundational elements, how can we plan for something? What I want to invite you is this is our chance as young people in this community to have our voice heard as one of the first steps of planning for our community and moving it forward. This is about our home. No one else is coming to help us. This is about Wichita, taking care of Wichita, and planning for our future. And now I'd like to introduce to you one of my favorite people, Moji Fanny Moki.
Don't you love that long, silent walk up to the podium? Good evening, everyone. How is everyone doing this evening?
Good.
Okay. I hate standing and talking at people, so we may be just a little bit interactive this evening. First and foremost, I want to know, how many people were born right here in the city of Wichita? Like me. Perfect. I was born at St. Francis, February 3rd, 1983. I'm sure some of you may have been there with me. Now, how many of you are like my parents and you've chosen to come to Wichita? Perfect. Well, believe it or not, there's something that all of us in this room this evening have in common. Whether we were born here and we've chosen to make Wichita our hometown and the place where we're going to live and work and make a life for ourselves, or you've chosen to migrate to Wichita for some reason, the city attracted you and you've decided to stay here, you've chosen to be here. Wichita is your choice. Make no mistake about that. Well, in November, we're finally going to be given the choice to invest in the city in which we live and truly make a difference for the future, for all generations of Wichitans. In my opinion, it's time that we come together as a community and we choose to be proactive rather than reactive. As John said, I remember a couple of years ago when Cheney was sitting, almost empty and the docks were laying there on the dirt. The biggest complaint for the city of Wichita was, oh my gosh, how did we let this happen? How did we not see this coming? How did we fail to plan? And finally, our city leaders listened to us and they said, we need to be proactive. We don't have the opportunity anymore to be reactive. We have to figure this out. Well, unfortunately, this choice to invest in our community, to find a dedicated water source, to finally find a way to shore up our transit system, to invest in road maintenance, and to make sure that we can be attractive to employers, not only the ones currently in Wichita, but actually ones that we want to bring into the city. Well, this choice to finally make this investment, it's come a little late. I was born and raised right here. I went through USD 259, I went to Wichita State. From the time that I was in elementary school to my days on campus at WSU, I've watched my classmates leave this city. And they left because, unfortunately, like some of us sitting in this room, they didn't have a choice. There were no jobs here for them. Wichita wasn't the city in which they could build their lives. I don't want that to be the continuous cycle for the young people of Wichita, that we're left without opportunity simply because we've chosen not to make the investment that we need to finally get us on the level with some of these cities that we're attempting to compete with. There is a plan. There's a very detailed plan. In fact, this is a plan that has taken years for the city to come up with. They've held over 100 different community meetings, reaching out to people, asking them, what do you want from your city? What do you think our priorities should be? These are things that Wichitans pointed out and envisioned for themselves. These aren't things that the city council came forward and said, this is what we have to do. These are things that Wichitans came forward and said, this is what we need to do. The city has continued to look at our options, to weigh these factors, to make sure that all things were considered prior to taking the vote and making this an opportunity for us to choose in November if this is the way that we want to make an investment in our city. Now, when they were asking what our priorities should be, they also asked us, what's the best way for us to fund these things? They gave us the opportunity to choose whether we thought property tax, whether we thought rate increases, or whether we thought a sales tax would be the best way for us to generate the funds that we needed. We as Wichitans are the ones that went back to our government and said that the sales tax was the one that we found most attractive in order to get the funds necessary to complete our priorities. So we've had the opportunity to have our voice be heard throughout this process. The city has done their due diligence. They've tried to reach out to make sure that this was a community decision, that we were coming together to say, this is how we want to shape the future of Wichita. You know, as John said, I've grown up here and I've listened to people compare Wichita to other cities, to complain about what we don't have. This is finally an opportunity for us to look and say, you know what? Instead of comparing myself to places like Dallas or Tulsa or Omaha or wherever else you'd like to, I'm not going to look at those places anymore. I'm going to look at Wichita. And I'm going to make sure that I invest and do what I need to make this a benchmark city. So others in Tulsa or Des Moines or in Dallas are looking at Wichita and saying, what can we do to be more like them? This isn't just a cash handout to the friends of the city council. This isn't cronyism. This is an investment in the people of Wichita. The Jobs Fund seems to be the most attractive piece for people to talk about when they want to say that this is a reason for us to vote no. But if you look at the jobs portion, it's truly a stepping forward and saying, we're going to invest in what we have here. It's providing workforce training so we can finally diversify our workforce that I've heard my parents talk about for years, saying that we are really needing. When companies are looking for cities that they could possibly relocate, one of the things they do is they look for shovel-ready sites. They want to make sure that you have all that they need in order to hit the ground running. This is finally going to put us in a place to where we can do that. And transit is important to so many members of our community. And it's not just those that may have some type of physical disability or those that are economically disadvantaged. I wish I could use the transit system. I'd love to be able to park my car every now and again and get on a bus and actually make it somewhere. But right now, the way that the system is set up and horribly underfunded, that's just not a possibility in a realistic amount of time. So as I'm looking at the card holder, I realize that I've gone a little over my time. But it's because I am passionate about this issue. I've sat back and I've thought to myself, what can I do? And this is what I can do. I can reach out to you all and try to provide as much factual information as possible so we can come together and make an educated choice. And that's all I ask you to do. I ask you to look at the facts, not the fear. And in November, vote for your future. Ask yourself what you want what your goal of Wichita is. And then ask yourself how your vote in November, whether it be yes or no, gets you to that goal. Thank you.